Deconstruction is more painful than construction. Or, I don't know. Is it really? I have a video I want to share with you. Of course, we're running a couple minutes behind here. Unfortunately, as things happen when you are going live and in studio on 4 different platforms: Rumble, YouTube, Facebook, and X, you get glitches. Fortunately, Ryan and I were able to troubleshoot it, and lo and behold, we were able to still get on without delaying too far. But um, thank you for your patience, and also, when we don't get the live pop-ups that we've gone live, you're probably going, "Where did DPB go?" Well, it happens. It's just part of the ups and downs of providing live content to you at the DPB show and the Ryan Mack show. It's stumbling, fumbling, bumbling, as Chris Berman used to say on ESPN. It's part of being real and being with you. Hey, I know that deconstruction, that's where we're at. Actually, it's not even deconstruction, it's reconstruction. It's constructing, it's changing course. You're going to continue to see and hear about all things, everything that is wrong with President Donald J. Trump and his plan, because they didn't have a plan for 4 years. Well, that's not necessarily true. Their plan was to destroy the country, to destroy the United States of America, and they almost achieved that. If it wasn't for um, the patriots of this country rising up, becoming so aware of what has transpired. I mean, I played this 10-minute long montage video where you talk about Mockingbird Media. They've rehearsed this. We were in the ash heap. We were in a pile of ashes. No, I'm not a big fan of continuing resolutions. I'm not a big fan of spending money in the manner that we're going to have to. But unfortunately, to rise from the ashes and continue winning, we're still winning. It's 50 days in, marking the halfway point to the 100 days, his first 100 days in office, President Trump 2.0. We're going to have to be realist about where we stand. We still have a House of Representatives that is made up of almost half, 50%, are Democrats. And those Democrats still have one goal and one goal only: to remain in power, to grow government as big as they possibly can, and to destroy this country. That's what they want. They are the proverbial of, even though they burnt the thing to the ground, they want to stand there and make sure that if indeed there's a resurrection, if something starts to percolate and grow, they want to make sure they're the weed killer. And they're going to douse it with a bunch of DEFCON or whatever weed killer that you possibly can think about, Roundup, whatever it might be. They want to shut off life. They want to kill it. They want to destroy it. And that's what they're trying to do to Trump. Now, Trump has told us, hey, this isn't going to be easy. We're going to have to buffet through this a little bit. Because look at the total cumulative effect of the Biden Harris administration: the border crisis, the energy crisis, the education crisis, the international crisis, and the list goes on, the monetary crisis, the giving away of what we're finding out now between the abuse, the waste, abuse, and fraud. How are we going to get that to bring the inflation down is the key. And how we're going to do that is growing America stronger than it's ever been before. That's what is referred to as what the president refers to as the golden age. We are in the golden age. Trump is got the Midas touch. He has proven that over and over and over and over again. Come on. No person that I know of in modern history has had in front of him the obstacles that have been placed. And no, he did not create those obstacles for himself. In fact, let's be real. Trump is worth enough money. He never had to run for president. He would have been protected. He would have been free of all the pedophiles and the craziness of Epstein Island and all that. Elon Musk definitely at $340 million, billion, not million, $1 billion, give or take a few billion on any given day with the market fluctuations. Elon Musk didn't have to sign up for where he's at. Pete Hegseth, no. Sean Duffy, no. Tulsi Gabbard, no. None of these folks. Robert Kennedy, no. Kash Patel, no. Pam Bondi, no. None of them had to endure what they're going to endure to make America great again, to bring back, to resuscitate our country to the land of the free, the home of the brave. It's not easy. It's not going to happen overnight. We're 50 days in. Hang with us. The best is yet to come. And we are going to grow the economy. And we're also going to save tons of money like it's never been saved before. We're going to uncover corruption. We're going to truly prosecute and go after criminals, career criminals, political criminals, and any other criminality that's out there. They're after it. But can you I know you can, as our audience, you can imagine what it's like to deal with the craziness of the after effect of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. That's what we're seeing. You just don't walk into this and flip a switch and it all materializes out of thin air, because it doesn't. With that, I've got a lot of loading to do of video content because I lost everything. And so what a better time to bring him on than there he is, the man, the myth, and the legend.
What's up?
Mackenzie of the Ryan Mac Show. Ryan, it's good to have you here.
Yeah.
Are you back? Are you back to normal?
Hopefully. Bodies begin to break down when you don't stretch properly. That's what happened to me. That's fine. I'll be fine. If you start seeing me slur off and drop off out of the camera, that's fine. I'm just hit the floor. It's fine.
Well, hopefully that doesn't happen. And if it does, I hope Amanda's close by to resuscitate Ryan.
There you go.
Here on the DPB show, Ryan Mac. If I would love it, a full live CPR class where Ryan's got his beautiful wife stomping on his chest, trying to resuscitate him. I know I can see it now. But go ahead, Ryan. You were saying.
So
I'm sorry, I cut you off.
Trump never said it was going to be easy fixing the financial mess that Biden left us in, right? You might remember more than I do, David, the 80s under Carter and Reagan. What did Reagan have to do to get inflation to stop?
Let's see. What did Reagan have to do to get he had to raise the prices?
Yeah. Well, he
created more inflation.
Yeah, he had to. He had to slow down the power of borrowing and the money supply, right? So in a temporary term, he made it harder to borrow money, and the spending was out of control, and it hurt. Nobody could borrow. The interest rates were skyrocketing. He had to make it hurt to borrow money to stop the inflation from skyrocketing. And eventually, once his policies took hold and inflation started coming down, you saw the full effect of the Reagan era correction from Jimmy Carter. It's the same thing happening here. All the liberals that on TikTok and X and Blue Sky that are crying about egg prices day one, you can just shove it. Those things are going to naturally start coming down from the prices and the transportation of goods as those prices start coming down. Trump is going to hammer the energy sector. He's going to lower prices organically, and he's got multifaceted approach to how he handles the economy, and that's what he's doing. And I know it's going to hurt. He said it's going to hurt. We have to make it hurt to stop the money supply, and that's exactly what he's doing.
Well, I've got the perfect video that's going to show you exactly how bad it's going to hurt. It's in the immortal words of John Cougar Mellencamp. It hurts so good. And this is interesting, Ryan. This has been talked about. President Trump gave an ultimatum to the mayor of Washington, D.C. that
Yeah.
like Ronald Reagan gave to Mikhail Gorbachev. He said, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down that wall.
Yep.
Well, President Donald J. Trump said to the mayor of Washington, D.C., Mayor of Washington, D.C., I don't know her name. I really don't want to care to know her name. You tear down that Black Lives Matter monument that you put in front of in downtown Washington, D.C. So here you go. What a beautiful thing it is. Okay, we're not gonna carry it on too much further. But can you imagine what is the cost? What was the cost paid to put pavers and to do what they did to build out Black Lives Matter on the pavement of Washington, D.C.? I mean, yes, there is deconstruction, and I am thankful that obviously it's amazing when you have a leader who comes in and says, we're not going to be a country of division, we're going to be a country based on merit, on a checkbook, on making America great again. I don't even know if I need to pull up very many videos or quotes or memes or anything today, because I think this should be a show based on what is going to happen going forward, because the best days are ahead of us. As you just said, Ryan, I mean, in order for us to make this thing realistic, in fact, I think I was making light of this before we came on, that my good friend Chuck Erickson, I hope that he still believes that I'm his friend. I look at him that way. He's not been back on the DPB show, but Chuck, I'm going to call it the good Chuck, bad Chuck, right? Because I don't always agree with Chuck, especially when he's going after and attacking the Republican Party where I live. There's a whole lot of reasons for that. I'm sure Chuck would be willing to explain that to you. Just go to his Facebook page. I'm going to give him credit where credit's due. Chuck Erickson for Illinois. He's very active and lively on his page. But this post that he put up earlier today was a history lesson for Republicans. Trump must keep the economy going. I have never been a big fan of tariffs. Of course, most Republicans, small government people, are not big proponents of tariffs. But with large trade imbalances, once again, we know where we stand with Mexico. We know where we stand with China. We know where we stand with Ukraine. We know where we stand with the European Union and who's been funding NATO. We know the balance sheet. The country needs a course correction if it is going to survive. Yes, Mr. Massey, we understand, Thomas Massey, that none of us like where things are at right now.
Yep.
But unfortunately, the reality, and I love what Dan Bongino said earlier today on his show, the reality is this. He was, of course, using Bo Jackson because he was a big Auburn fan, and Bo was a running back there and went on to become an NFL star, played baseball too, multi-sport, that's usually not heard of, and did well at both sports. I mean, the interesting thing is when you try to compete at that level in multiple sports, especially baseball, football, usually you're going to be much better at one than you are another. But Bo Jackson was pretty good at both of them. Definitely football was his number one sport. But Bo Jackson has a severe injury, and it creates a debilitating injury that he can't compete. But he goes and he tells This is all Bongino. Once again, I'm going to try to utilize as much of Dan's stuff here in the next couple days, uh, or next couple shows, I should say. Today's show and Thursday show, because on Friday it is the last show for Dan Bongino for who knows how long. It might be a short tenure as the deputy director of the FBI. It could be long. I don't know. I know that Dan wants to get in there and do the job that needs to be done, and he's efficient, and he believes in the spreadsheet too. But what Dan said is, here you got Bo Jackson. He's got a debilitating leg injury. He can't compete in the game this week, and he goes to the coach and he says, "Coach, I know I can do it. I can run for 200 yards." Well, that's great. I know I can run for 200 yards. Unfortunately, I don't think you can run for 200 yards because you're not even going to be in the game. So if you're not even in the game and you don't have a game plan, then Thomas Massey, it's probably time. And I honor Mr. Massey and some of the things he's done. He's put forth amazing policies. He's been on the cutting edge, the front end of a lot of things. And most of the time, and he's even right about this. You're right. I don't like it either where we're at. But unfortunately, you can't sway the other side of the aisle. And you have this whole thing that when you get into the Senate and you have the filibuster, and to move towards reconciliation so you can start taking back control, because let's not fool ourselves. The Democrats still have a lot of control of not only the House of Representatives, but the Senate. That's the only place that they still have a foothold, and they still have the same mindset. They still believe that America is not an exceptional country, that the world is better off under the World Economic Forum, the World Health Organization, the means of George Soros and Klaus Schwab, the fact that they continue to believe that Ukraine is angelic in what they've done. And no, the people of Ukraine, yes, are a people that just wants to live in perfect harmony. Unfortunately, the thieves, the corruption of their country has put them in their position. Now, the corruption of the United States has also put them in a bad position. The corruption of the United States has also helped facilitate the corrupt government of Russia and Vladimir Putin. He is a dictator. He is a terrible human being. We all can agree to that. But Mr. Zelensky is not a choir boy by any means. Now, I know that he's been seen dancing around when he did his theatrical performances and things in his prior career as an actor, but he is not a choir boy. So the reality of it is there are going to be many moments between day 50, which is where we're at today, and day 100, where we are going to face turbulence, buffeting. I mean, how do you we were destined, as Thomas Massey said, and he's correct. We're bankrupt, and we are. How do you get yourself out of the situation of being financially and spiritually broken? Well, first and foremost, Ryan, what do you do? What do you do if you're spiritually broken? What do you think you should do?
Well, first and foremost, you lean in to God if you're spiritually broken.
Yep.
Secondly, to Massey's point, yes, we cannot spend a penny more than what we're doing. But the problem is you have to spend to get out of the mess you're in. Now, obviously that sounds terrible, but you can't just sit back and do nothing, because a no vote on any of these bills going forward gives Democrats a whole lot more ammo to use. And while I've applauded Massey in the past, I think he's dead wrong on these current issues. I get it. You don't want to spend a penny more to get out of this mess of spending, but what you can spend less and still claw out of that hole the budget mess he's in.
Okay, well, let me get back to Chuck E. is in love. That's Chuck Erickson. Yes, Chuck Erickson. I've said his name here for at the DPB show. Chuck used to be with us in studio back at the radio station Cigars with Chuck. Chuck is served as a county board member. He's an attorney. He's a competent attorney. A very, he's a thoughtful guy. I mean, I enjoy Chuck. I hope sometime he jumps back on the DPB show. I'd love to have him as a guest, especially with content like this and this post. And you can go out to see it for yourself. Chuck Erickson of Illinois. He's out there. But you hit upon something, Ryan, when I asked the question, what do you do when you're spiritually broken? You get down on your knees and you humble yourself to admit we're broken.
Mm-hmm.
Illinois is broken as my show used to open up. The United States of America is broken. Are we still one of the finest countries in the world? Yes,
Absolutely.
because we are the land of the free, the home of the brave. If you think it's bad here, go to other places. Don't believe me. Don't take my word. Go outside of the United States and see how other countries are existing at this point, because a lot of those countries have open borders too, and they've created a conundrum of, did I say that right?
Yeah, conundrum.
I got that out. But getting back to Chuck's little post here. Course corrections are controversial, sometimes painful. Trump has been saying there might be adjustments in the short term. If we do a course correction, there will be a price to pay. How much? Who knows? But he goes on to look at Paul Volcker, who was appointed as a Federal Reserve chairman by President Jimmy Carter in 1979. This is one of the things I really admire about Chuck. He's historically, he's spot on a lot of things. His aggressive interest rate hikes aimed at combating the high inflation of the late 1970s led to a deep recession in the early 1980s. When Ronald Reagan took office in 1981, Volcker continued his tight monetary policies, which pushed unemployment above 10% by 1982. Despite the short-term economic pain, Reagan supported Volcker's efforts to curb inflation. Resisting pressure to intervene, Reagan focused on his own economic agenda: tax cuts, does this sound familiar? Deregulation, and increased defense spending, while allowing the Fed to operate independently. By the mid-1980s, inflation had been tamed, the economy rebounded strongly. So while Volcker's policies contributed to the early 1980s recession, Reagan backed him because he believed controlling inflation was necessary for a long-term economic stability. By late 1982, inflation was coming down and Volcker began lowering interest rates. Reagan's policies, combined with a looser monetary stance, helped fuel a strong economic recovery. Between 1983 and 1989, GDP growth averaged 4.6 per year. If we see 4.6 growth, which some say that we could see up to 6%, unemployment dropped sharply, the stock market soared. And it goes on to name the political consequences. Reagan's approval ratings plummeted during the recession, reaching around 35% in 1982. The Democrats made big gains in the 1982 midterms. However, the economic boom that followed allowed Reagan to win re-election in a 49-state landslide in 1984. Folks, where we are at today is where Trump was setting us up never to be. But that's what they saw in president. That's why they wanted Trump out of the way. So they could orchestrate, engineer, socially engineer, fiscally engineer, emotionally engineer the world that we just came through in the 4 years. Isn't it funny and ironic that the left, the radical left, the loony left, the Democrat Party, they don't talk about how we got to be where we're at today. It didn't happen because of Trump. Why doesn't Senator Durbin, Dick Durbin, or Senator Tammy Duckworth, or any of these other senators, Chuck Schumer, Chuck E. Schumer, and Adam Shifty. Why aren't they talking about what created the problem that we're facing today? Why? Why don't
because Orange Man bad, David. They
Yeah.
can't have any success tied to Trump and his policies. It is Trump as a felon, Trump as a rapist, Trump as a Nazi, and so are 77 million of his supporters. When for 4 years Biden said the economy was great and the best economic turnaround since the COVID era, whatever he said, and then you had a black lesbian at the podium telling everything was fine. Well, come to find out, Trump's 50 days in office, everything's not fine. The sky is falling economically, but part of it is because it's a course correction. Like you said, we have to slam the brakes on inflation. In order to do so, you have to make it hurt. You have to make it hurt to borrow more money and throw more money into the market. And Trump doing that, we'll see a Reagan era like correction. It's going to temporarily hurt really bad, but it's going to be a long-term successful fight.
I don't have the video because it is too long to play the video of the Mockingbird media where they all got behind on talking about Joe Biden's fiery State of the Union address. It was fiery. It was fiery.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
so
I will find it.
Yeah. I mean, just to play a snippet of it is worth it. I put it up the other day, but while you're finding that, this is something that shows you the deception of how bad things were. And I'm bringing this one on stage because I think it's classic. And this here, well, it's not right there, but it will be there, is a video of did I get it right? Oh, no, I must be on the wrong one. Let's see here. Let me see. Did that pop over? No, I got to add it to stage, and let me remove this one, present this one, share this one, and why isn't it present? There we go. Share. Here we go. The buttons aren't working, Ryan. I have no idea. Yeah, interesting.
So now nothing works.
Yeah, now it's not. I'm not able to present. Let me go back and see if I can do that. Let me cancel out of it and see if I can jump back in. Yeah, there it just grabbed it, which is good. So setting this up a little bit, and I don't want it to blast out here because it's not very long. It's only 27 seconds. Okay. This is President Trump's attorney, and she's very gifted at walking through a lot of these issues. But this is kind of fascinating. I don't know if you've seen this. It's 27 seconds. Let me just jump it on real quick here and blow it up a little bit. A little tougher to deal with this. The screen is there. We go.
Look at the room that they put me in. Biden's fake Oval Office, everybody. And I've
my gosh.
This out. I now know why. I now get it. Turn the camera around. There is a screen, teleprompter to the face. All I can say is the last administration was a disgrace. You guys, I just finished a show.
I'm going to play it over again.
Look at the room that they put me in. We're in Biden's fake Oval Office, everybody. And I've actually figured this out. I now know why. I now get it. Turn the camera around. There is a screen, teleprompter to the face. All I can say is the last administration was a disgrace. You guys, I just finished a show.
Yeah.
Look at the room that they put me in.
We're
in Biden's fake Oval Office, everybody.
Unbelievable.
I actually figured this out. I now know why. I now get it. Turn the camera around. There is a screen, teleprompter to the face. All I can say is the last administration was a Disgrace.
There you go.
Guys,
As fake as it can be. I mean, you can't. This is, folks, whatever you do, don't buy into what has happened over the last 50 days.
Mm-hmm.
Last week was a dagger to the heart. We are just a week removed from the state or the joint address to Congress. I didn't want to do a faux pas and do what's her name, Crockett, and call it a State of the Union, because it wasn't the State of the Union. It was a joint address to Congress. And that night did more to damage them than it did to obviously propel their cause. In fact, they're still trying to figure out how to dig themselves. They had to run away from that real quick. So now they're going to totally focus on the economy, which is, I think it's fascinating. All right, Ryan, because when they do get behind something, they all seem to sync up with the messaging. They don't like Republicans they're not like Republicans where we have, natural discourse. We agree to disagree. We just had that. We're telling you about one of our very own, Thomas Massey, who we all, really believe does a lot of great things. And once again, it's not because he's Thomas Massey, it's because of what he accomplished. The outcomes were outcome based. But if there is not enough runway to get you off of into the air, then what does it serve by doing what the Democrats have done for 4 years? They never had enough of a runway. In fact, they didn't even have an airport.
Mm-hmm.
They gave us a fake airport, right?
Yeah.
That's what Habib was just sharing with us, the attorney for Trump. They manufactured a Oval Office to pretend that Joe Biden.
It makes you wonder who was actually in the Oval Office all the times that he was putting a stage setup.
Yeah, they didn't allow him in the Oval Office.
And the auto penning of all the documents.
So you were able to find that
yeah,
video.
It's about 10 minutes long. We could just play a little bit of it.
Let's play it.
But this is what the media did during Biden's speech to Congress.
Biden's fiery State of the Union address.
I'm here tonight to show what I believe is the way forward.
He was absolutely on fire.
Joe Biden was on fire.
You were on fire.
You brought that Irish fire tonight.
Fired us all up.
Biden was on fire.
At the top of his game.
He's on fire.
Smoking. He's on fire.
Robust and clear.
Joining us tonight is Latoya Beasley, emboldening others to do what they wish. Big landlords who use antitrust law, who break antitrust laws, to make sure everyone has a fair shot. RGTP is up. I believe Roe v. Wade got it right. Guarantee the right to ABF so builders can get federally financing. Federal is over $1 trillion. $1 million. Millions of families can get. They need to go to work watching auto jobs in the future to instigate the collection.
Yeah.
Fiery.
But
Trump's speech was terrible. Yeah.
But staying focused. This is what they do. They have to distract. They have to deceive. We talked about it over and over and over again. I tried to give subtle hints to them last week as something the Democrat Party could do to overcome the deficit they're in. I mean, and you talk about the country being in a deficit. The Democrat Party is equally in a deficit. The Republican Party, we haven't been in control for 4 years. We've been in control for 50 days.
Yeah.
That's a whole lot of days fewer than 4 years. We now have shown you it's been based on deception, corruption, abuse, waste, and that's going to continue to play its out. And if you don't believe that, if you are or somebody watching or you get the content of the DPB show, what's your plan? Your plan's continuing to keep the government the size it is, knowing what we know about the deficit?
Yeah.
I mean, that's irresponsible.
Right.
That's where the guys start knocking at your door and you're being evicted. And that's what would happen to our country. We would be evicted. Who would we be evicted by? The establishment. the cabal,
Yeah.
the deep state, the blob, whatever you want to refer to those folks as, that's where we are. This is go time. And Trump knows that. And if ever there was a person who could basically bring us out of the ashes, it's Donald J. Trump. He talked about being in the ashes. I mean, come on. I know most of you that are listening to Ryan and I know what Trump spent most of his time talking about in his campaign rallies. It was the same topics over and over again to make America great. He put out Project Agenda 47. I almost said Project 47, not to be confused with Project 2025. Project 2025. They dropped that one real quick too. The old Project 2025 went away real quick.
Well, you know what I like to do? I like to list random pages in which some of the executive orders are on in Project 2025.
Yeah.
Like, you know what? The boys and women's sports, that's on page 52.
Yeah. It has nothing to do with the Project 2025. Project 2025, and the only way the Project 2025 could happen is if we truly resurrect the country.
Yeah.
But until that happens, there is no Project 2025. As idealistic as the Project 2025 is, it could never come to fruition in the current state of the state of this union. I would have loved to. That's not what you give as a incoming president. You don't give a State of the Union because he's just grabbing the reins back from. In the reins, I don't even know. Are there reins? Because what was Joe Biden
picking up the
pulling on?
pieces?
Yeah, I mean, Joe had no reins. They didn't put the reins in the guy's hand. He wasn't the commander in chief. He wasn't duly elected to be president of the United States of America. It was a fraudulent election. They stole the election of 2020. They know it. We know it. Everybody knows it.
Careful, he might be demonetized on YouTube for saying that.
Well, if I'm demonetized on YouTube, so be it, because I'm getting so wealthy, doing videos here and on YouTube. And I'm also, like Bongino said, why did they demonetize? Why did they boot Bongino? Because he was willing to come out and speak truth. Yeah. They didn't like it. That's what I want to do. I want to speak truth. It's part of when I had this debacle at the beginning of the show with Ryan. Ryan said, "What were you doing?" I said, "I was looking up the verse, 'We rise again from ashes.'" And, for my fellow Christians out there who practice the Catholic faith tradition and the Lutheran faith tradition, the Methodist faith tradition, they just celebrated Ash Wednesday. And Ash Wednesday is reflecting on where we were at, who we are, the humility of humanity, where we ultimately are going and why it is we're going there, where there's only one ticket to ride to heaven, and that comes from Jesus Christ. And so as I'm trying to find that Bible verse, the whole thing implodes, and all I can attribute it to is Satan, the demons. They don't want us to live in perfect harmony. They don't want to teach the world to sing. They don't want to buy the world a Coke. That was a joke. Ryan, do you get that joke about?
Nope. Went right over my head. Well, you showed your age there.
The Coca-Cola commercial back in the day played the music "I Want to Teach the World to Sing" in perfect harmony, and everybody was cheering. Can I say that? Cheering the Coca-Cola bottle, the tink of the glass, and everything else. Real quick, I know that Mrs. Producer got delayed today, so before we get back to wrapping up the show, obviously thanking for all those people that have led to us to have this space. Ryan, here we go. Laura Reese, Common Sense sees it was a bad idea and put the BLM monument to put the monument up. Mary, thank you. Tom, there you go. Tom Kerrigan. She tagged a few people, and yes, all those folks usually are frequent flyers. at the DPB show. We appreciate everybody that participates in the comment section. That's how we obviously know that you're hearing, seeing, and going out and liking and subscribing to the DPB show, the Ryan Mack show. Give us the likes, boost us up, share it with friends, because right here in this little place that we call home, Central Illinois, the heartland of the United States of America, we are fighting the good battle. We have a governor who is determined to not talk about the past 4 years, but just to talk about the first 50 days. And the sad thing is, he's doing it from the helm of being the governor of Illinois, and the state itself is a debacle, losing population. He spent over $1 billion to house illegal immigrants. The city of Chicago is, well, some people refer to it as Chicago without the C, and they put an S in front of it, Chicago. And then there's a reason for that. Fine people in Chicago, beautiful people in Chicago. It's not the people.
Yeah, it's leadership.
The leadership. Everything rises and falls with leadership. That's the ongoing battle. We knew it was going to be tough. It wasn't going to be easy. Trump finds himself at the precipice of an economy that was teetering at the best. The debt load, the fact that he shut off energy, the fact that he opened the borders, the fact that he opened public education up to Sodom and Gomorrah. I mean, everything flew because it was DEI. He did that to our military. But as the old saying goes, you can't turn a big train around with a little track. And there's not a lot of track. In fact, as we shared with you, there was no track. Ryan?
It's almost worse than coming out of Obama's 2 terms when Trump won the first time. Yeah, Obama was very smart to not completely railroad the country because he knew it would lose a lot of people. But Biden and the left in his term just took it to Obama's 3rd term, essentially. They absolutely wanted to course correct from Trump's reimagining of what America should be, what used to be, and they wanted to throw it off a cliff. And now you're seeing an even steeper hill to climb from Trump go around. But you've got the people in place. You've got the right people in the right places to make this course correction. You've got the first term was that we talked about that learning curve where you didn't know anything about the government. You had no idea what you were doing. And now you had 4 years to plan and plot every which way you wanted to fix it. And now he's putting it in place to fix. And it's going to be longer than 4 years to fix. But you have to start digging up the bodies somewhere. And that's what Trump's doing this term.
I think that the big debate goes in the misunderstanding, and I want to end the show with these 2 things. Ryan, let me put my hat back on. I had to give my head a little break, air it out a little bit. Yeah, there you go. A couple things. One, the tariffs. The other thing that we spoke at great length about when we came on the show is there's a lot of people who are very confused about what this Constitution says behind us.
Yeah.
And the power of the pen. Obama said, I have a pen and I'm going to use it, basically. Biden used his pen.
Yeah.
He did away with things. He brought things on. He fired generals. He restructured the military. He restructured this. He restructured that. He opened the border. He did away with a pipeline and energy. He gave money away. He did a debacle in the pullout of Afghanistan. He gave away $85 billion in resources, military resources. He did all of that. And yet people don't talk about it. So the divide of that people have is, what is the power of the presidency? He's not a dictator. You're right. But he is the executive. He's the commander in chief. He has the ability to take agencies that are around him and totally dissolve them.
Yeah.
Now, he also has the power to petition the legislature to enact laws, to put forth bills that he can sign into law that will make that permanent. That's how the system works.
Yeah. Congress doesn't just make agencies out of thin air. That's
No.
the executive branch. They control the agency's purse. When that branch or that agency gets created, that funding comes from Congress. But Congress didn't just create all these departments. Remember the Office of the Gun Control or whatever Biden created? That was an extension of the executive branch. That wasn't Congress. That was an office that was opened up to deal with some leftist dream of gun control, but it never got used. But that was out of the executive branch. It's the same thing. So when liberals say, well, he has no authority to do that, then what does he have authority to do?
Well, here's what he has authority to do. And I think one of the best things that happened for Trump is right here. Is Caroline Levitt. I think I've got this playing already. I don't know if it's up net. Oh, it's muted. So let me unmute that.
They get charged
Oh.
on the back for a second. When President Trump last addressed the BRT when he was on the campaign trail, his big push was on tax cuts. He's going there today as he's proposing tax hikes in the form of tariffs. And I'm curious for why he's prioritizing that over the tax cuts.
He's actually not implementing tax hikes. Tariffs are a tax hike on foreign countries that, again, have been ripping us off. Tariffs are a tax cut for the American people. And the president is a staunch advocate of tax cuts. As you know, he campaigned on no taxes on tips, no taxes on overtime, no taxes on Social Security benefits. He is committed to all three of those things, and he expects Congress to pass them later this year.
I'm sorry, have you ever paid a tariff? Because I have.
That's
they
it.
don't get charged on foreign companies. They get charged on the importers.
And ultimately, when we have fair and balanced trade, which the American people have not seen in decades, as I said at the beginning, revenues will stay here, wages will go up, and our country will be made wealthy again. And I think it's insulting that you're trying to test my knowledge of economics and the decisions that this president has made. I'm now regret giving a question to the Associated Press. Mary.
Well,
Yeah.
that's why we don't call him the AP.
That's why, because this man wants to make it about himself. And this is the problem. You talk about lack of social awareness. Dude, we get it. If we get lumber or if we get automobiles and there's a tariff on that country.
Yes.
If you're buying a good or a service from another country, the idea isn't to buy goods and services from another country.
Right.
Unless you're buying them at the same price you can buy
exactly
and a good in America. If you're paying more, then that's on you.
Right. What was the example that I heard? I think Dan brought it up a while back. Mercedes are cheaper to buy here in our country than Fords are to buy in Europe.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Why would you buy a Ford going to Europe if we pay 2% on Ford going there?
That's right.
And then we pay 9% over here.
Yeah. Nobody's buying Fords.
It's the other way around. It's 9% Fords and 2% on BMWs here, Mercedes, whatever it was.
Well, and that's, she just brought it to point. And Chuck said this earlier on Chuck Erickson for Illinois. There's an imbalance. It's gone on for decades. Who created the imbalance?
Yeah.
You folks love to operate in the imbalance. The tariffs aren't being used to be in perpetuity. They are being used to get rid of taxation without representation. Taxation, like tax on tips, tax of Social Security, tax here, tax there, tax everywhere. They're being used to levelize the playing field so that goods and services traded worldwide, we have an advantage. When will you get it to the point that you realize, and I'm not talking to the people on the DPB show, I'm talking to the people that you're going to talk to. Just say, when are you going to realize that we can't go on together with suspicious minds? That's an Elvis song. We can't go on together with us being on the piggy bank, paying for everything and anything. We don't have the resources if we're always bailing you out to take care of the people that are dependent upon the monies that we have in our own country, whether that's the least of these, the marginalized, the veterans, the homeless, whomever it might be, healthcare. You want to make healthcare great again? Then stop funding everything and anything around the world. I'm sorry. Those countries can stand on their own.
Right.
They've made it this long, and the monies that we were sending to these countries, the money never got appropriated there either.
No.
No different than our country.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, you were going to hit upon that, Ryan.
Oh no, it's the cycle that I talked about before with, I think Amanda and I were talking about it. The pharmaceutical companies, the healthcare industry, they're in a lockstep circle. It's a life cycle, right? So they put crappy ingredients and non-edible ingredients in your food to keep you sick, so that you go ahead and use the healthcare system designed to also keep you sick, because they can ramp up more drugs and more ingredients into their drugs to get you to keep being just a little bit better, and then you can be treated again, and then they feed you more of the same. It's a complete cycle of fraud and abuse by the American system.
Yeah. Well, before we jump off, obviously this isn't going to go away. The golden age is here. Let's name it and claim it. We are at a point where, yes, we didn't do it, but we're going to fix it. And anyone who stands in the way, they just need to, is Lee Iacocca, the former CEO of Chrysler, said, you can lead, follow, or get out of the way. And right now, there are some people that are unwilling to get out of the way. So what's going to happen is they're going to get run over. And the midterms, keep it up. They've already shown their hand. I mean, it was just a week ago today that they would not stand and applaud a child surviving brain cancer. They would not stand and clap and applaud for two mothers who have lost their children to violent, illegal immigrant criminals. They would not stand and applaud anything about making America great again and what benefits Americans. And what they would stand and applaud for is making sure that men could compete in women's spaces, and they had the audacity to do that and still try to celebrate International Women's Day.
Yeah.
I mean, the hypocrisy, the mockingbird media, all of that goes to show you that they have been, when they talk about being exposed and being naked, it's literal. They have been exposed. They are naked, and it's unfortunate for them because they created it for themselves. Now, for us going forward, we see the opening. It is like Bo Jackson running through that hole, or a Barry Sanders. The hole is there. We have to create the hole, though. And that takes the offensive line moving the different defensive players out of the way. And that's what we're doing. We're moving the defensive players out of the way. That's what the continuing resolution is about. It is to propel us into the future, to grow the economy as Reagan did, up to a point of 4.9% GDP, up to, or in the immortal words of Joe Biden, whatever he said, GAP or whatever, but growing it beyond 3%, which Trump showed that during his first presidency. For his as Trump, President 45 of the nation, he led us to prosperity. And then, of course, in comes the Wuhan Chinese virus that came from America, and Dr. Fauci. Yes, you're right. I just got demonetized again on YouTube because that's the Fauci virus that came in, which how much was Fauci paid? I'd like to get to the bottom of this. Rand Paul obviously questioned him many times. He said he never funded Gain of Function, but then he came to find out that he did fund Gain of Function. So who was behind the Fauci ouchie? I would say we know the answer. Yes, was China culpable? So many things will continue to be unraveled. Stay tuned. We are just getting started. The best is yet to come, and we are going to be the greatest country on the face of God's green earth. So with that, let's take it to prayer, Ryan.
Yep. Absolutely.
Are you praying, Ryan?
Yep.
Go ahead.
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you that you are watching over us into this new era, the golden era that you've whisked us into and taken us out of a dark era. We only hope that we can continue to follow you in this new golden era. We bring you closer to you and bring our nation closer to you as we move into the greatest, perhaps, era of all American history. Thank you for loving us and watching over us, even though you don't need to, you don't have to. But we are very grateful for you and grateful for everybody out there that can hear our message that you bring to us. With that, in your name we pray, amen.
Amen. Hey, Ryan, you hit upon it. Thank you. Knocked it out of the park. It's no different than the prayer that was said at the first cabinet meeting held by our president, Donald J. Trump.
Mhm.
He wanted to begin his tenure with prayer. We were talking earlier about what is it going to take to restore, to resurrect, to make America great again. It is God. And
Mhm.
Trump said that. He said it during the address to the joint session. We need God.
Mhm.
Without God, we don't have a prayer. With God, all things are possible. If we don't lean into it, like you said, Ryan, and it's just not on the spiritual side, because spiritually we are bankrupt.
Mhm.
We're spiritually bankrupt because we've turned from God. We are fiscally bankrupt because we have turned from God. We're fiscally bankrupt because we want to continue to do it our way and rather than God's way. And that's just not today in this modern age of the golden age. It's been in every age since the beginning of time. When you take God out of the classroom, out of your country, you are left with a very dark, despicable land. And we know that to be the case. So, Ryan, Thursday is just around the corner.
Yes, sir.
We have talked about shifting to Friday. We're still looking at that. So we will keep you apprised if that happens, but we will be back here on Thursday from 4 to 5. So with that, I say I love you.
I love you.
But Jesus loves you more. We will see you on Thursday.